Well, I suppose it's traditional. I wasn't particularly good looking. That happened last week. And when I was little, I didn't get the girls. So I sort of messing around. I came from a family where we'd go around my grand and granddad's on a Saturday night and everyone would sing. So most of all, I became a singer. And then I like to make people smile. So I forced my sisters into doing tea time shows in the front room for mum, dad, and my auntie and uncle. So I've always sort of performed, and I suppose it was for the reward, but also because I love to do it. So, in inverted commas, I've always been a poser, I suppose. I've been singing in dance bands. I had my own band. I was playing guitar vocals in pubs and clubs. But in my mind, I always wanted to be a comedian, and I can tell you the reason for that a little bit later on. I had a moment before where I discovered that comedy was to be my life, but I was only 14 at the time. But when you're ready, I'll throw that one at you.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about whether Andy Ford could have been a rock star, because you mentioned being a singer with a band and going solo, but I think your first gig was at the age of 12 or something, and there are so many from the 60s particularly of bands, and I'm thinking about the Barron Knights, who moved into comedy, Russ Abbott, of course, with the Black Abbots, then moved into comedy. That's what you did.
I think the thing that happens to start with, when you're a live band, and someone breaks a string, you have to fill in. And I'd always had this desire to be a comedian, so I'd fill in with a couple of gags here and there, and it started to get good reaction. So eventually, when I went solo, it was my show. I could put in as much as I wanted, and it built and built and built until eventually I put the banjo and the guitar down and just stood up and did what I do, really.
And that was the start of the cabaret circuit stuff, really, was it?
Yeah, I suppose so. When I was, I'm not sure how it was at the time. It was early 80s anyway. I started running a holiday park in East Devon called Latram Bay. And I did the gig there one year, went so well that they invited me back. I said, I can put the entertainment in if you like. I had no idea what I was going to do, but I thought, let's get my feet under the table. And I introduced green coats. I put all the acts on, but of course I was the boss of the entertainment. So when I did a cabaret, I chuck in the gags, and it grew and grew from there. And I was lucky enough to be doing that for about 6 months, 2 or 3 times a week. So I had time to practice and get paid for it. So I was very lucky.
Was that when you started to develop your own style? Because you are unique. And I mentioned, the daft comedian, but were you just doing gags in those early days, or were you already working on being different?
I can tell you the exact moment it happened. I was playing at St Ives in Cornwall in a holiday camp, and it's the first time I met my now wife, and she saw the show. She was actually a stage manager for a touring group from London, a college of performers. They did songs from the musicals and stuff. Bit weird for a holiday camp at the time. But anyway, it was different. So the holiday camp went for it. Anyway, we fell in love, blah, blah, blah. But she, after my first show, she'd seen my whole show, and she said to me, "Why are you doing those gags?" And I said, "Well, everybody does them on the circuit." She said, "Do you think they're funny?" And I said, "Well, not particularly." She said, "I got a brilliant idea." I said, "What's that?" She said, "Why don't you do the things that make you laugh?" And I thought, wow, no one's ever said that to me before. And then she said, "And why are you dressing like a 55-year-old man at the age of 30? Yeah, we were destined to be together forever, weren't we?
Yes.
So we got together, and I reinvented myself. And what I took as the inspiration was, when you see a kiddie, I don't know, 4 or 5 or whatever, and they're happy or they're upset, you just see their truth. If they're upset about something, they'll stomp their feet and, oh, it's not fair. And it's okay when you see a kid do it, but when you put that body language into an adult, it's funny.
Thank you so much for listening to this interview. If you enjoyed it, please click on the like button and ring that notification bell. And there are many, many more to listen to on this channel, so make sure you subscribe if you possibly can. Thank you.